back and forth. Let's go ahead and take the Meyer way right now. Tom, are we ready to go on this?
It's the ordinance you have or should have. There are, I think, 5 variances that he needs. I guess there's just a dispute about one of them. The proposed, it's a conditional approval. We didn't get the revised ordinance that we're voting on tonight until last Wednesday, the 29th, and I didn't get to look at it until Friday afternoon. The ordinance proposes to waive the sidewalk requirement for the frontage on the 4 lots on Jip Road. The south 30 feet of lot of the most southerly lot in the subdivision was acquired from pre-existing Gatorin Phase 2 subdivision lot, and that pre-existing subdivision lot has a mortgage on it from the sellers, and our practice and requirement is that we get a mortgage subordination agreement whenever we approve a subdivision plat, so that in the event of a foreclosure, it doesn't extinguish the subdivision or the part of the subdivision the mortgage applies to. He's asking for a waiver on that because he has no control over that. He can't get the mortgage subordinate. And I think Mr. Mark's here. If I'm misspeaking, tell me that I am. And he's labored and tried to get the subordination agreement, but I guess the lender still has a lien on the whole lot, and they're uncooperative unless their loan's paid, so, or unless they...
Actually, it's kind of a moot point, because if they would foreclose, instead of having 30 feet, they'd have an entire lot, so actually make the property more valuable, so there's no risk whatsoever.
Well, the risk is that if they foreclose, that 30 foot goes back with the lot from Gator. And then you've got a frontage that's a lot less, 30 foot less than 100 foot minimum. So a cure for that would be to have a 45 foot side yard requirement on that side of the lot. 15 on the other side, which is ordinance required, which gives you 40 feet to build on. And I talked to Al Holden today, and he says that, for example, in Columbia Lakes, with front entry garages, their typical ranch is 48 foot. So if you had a 40 foot building on there with a side entry garage, or a garage in front, maybe only one room in the front of the house, you could put a 40 foot house on, linear foot frontage house on there.
But I'd have 55 feet on that, or I guess talk about 2 different things again.
You got 100.1 foot frontage because of the 30 foot acquisition. If there's a foreclosure, that 30 foot is no longer part of that lot. It's sold with the other Gator and subdivision lot, because that was recorded before the subdivision, and you're taking subject to that happening. So if you do that, then you've got 100 foot minus 30, which is 70.
I just, correct me if I'm wrong, but that took place, then the mortgage company will repossess the entire lot, because I've combined those two through the merger of
Well, they might, your entire lot would be 70 foot at that point if the other lender.
No, sir, because the lot would be existing, they would be entitled to my entire lot.
Subject to the mortgage that's against them.
Right.
And they aren't, you know, that ain't just gonna happen.
I understand, but through the mortgage, the merger of title, which...
Well, that's 2 different things entirely.
But now it becomes...
I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to find a way to get this done. Yeah.
I appreciate it, there's just very little risk involved.
But that's right. There's very little risk, and if we took a 45 foot side yard, then we would lose the 100 foot required frontage, but we would still have the 15 foot side yard on each side, even if the Gator lot ended up in foreclosure and we lost it. And so the only ordinance violation then was you wouldn't have 100 foot frontage at the building line. So that's one way to deal with that. But the alternative is to take the risk or not approve it without waiving the mortgage subordination. So Then the third variance is the exterior brick masonry requirement. And I think Mr. Meyer, and apparently Ron agrees with him, that the grandfather provisions of our zoning ordinance apply to this. I submit they do not. Grandfathering is where a change in the law makes a pre-existing situation illegal. And so it allows it to continue to be non-conforming. The law that applies to the exterior masonry brick requirement was passed in 2006. It's an existing law. What makes it non-conforming is the unfortunate situation that probably, I mean, we didn't think about a situation like this, but here it is. I mean, there's always something falls through the cracks. We got an existing building on a 4-lot subdivision that's all framed, that has no brick walls. That means 25% of the subdivision is no brick, and our ordinance limits it to 20. So I submit you gotta go through the variance procedure, but we probably, in this case, may want to do that. Jim?
Yeah, I had a question. I looked at this closely, and when I look at the plat, ultimately, when this is built out, we're going to get 2 houses with brick on 3 sides and 1 with brick on just the face. And it's just a 5% factor that throws this whole thing off. And I think this is we're ultimately going to get what the desire of the masonry ordinance was, that there should be some way that we can give the variance tonight without going to.
No, you can't. Your ordinances clearly say if it's a zoning ordinance variance, and the state statutes, more importantly, mandate if it's a zoning ordinance variance. In the state statutes, you can delegate the decision on variance to the zoning board, or you can retain it in the council. But if it's retained in the council, you have to have a public hearing before the zoning board. And if it's delegated to the zoning board, they have to have a public hearing before the zoning board. And we can't change that. I mean, we didn't create it. We're required by law to comply with it, and we can't change it.
If I could just state that if this does go before the zoning board, and I think I'm probably one of the people who can enforce this, I would go with Mr. Meyer to support his position. So
Well, the way the
that
ordinance
helps
is
a lot.
written, you're recommending they approve it. The ordinance I gave you that I wrote recommends they do it.
Right.
But you have to go through the statutory procedure to get
And
it.
I understand the legal thing. I just wanted to hear it again tonight, and there it is. But I would support what is on this plat. Just that's some reassurance for Mr. Meyer.
No, I guess the most difficult variant, as the plat was submitted previously, it contemplated private septic systems. And it's my understanding that public sewer is not available. That's what you told me.
At this
in the
time.
email. At this time. Well, we can't approve a plat that doesn't have either. When you approve a plat of subdivision, you're representing to the people at large that this is a building lot, that they can get a building permit and build on, that all sewer, water, electric is available. And if you make that representation and it isn't, you should be sued if you're not, and you probably will be, because you shouldn't do it. You're representing it's there, and if it isn't, okay, so in good faith, it's my understanding that Mr. Meyer or Ron went to the county, the state statute, the Illinois Plat Act, Section 2 says that if it's private septic systems, you have to get the approval of the local health agency, which is by county, in our county. And you have to sign the plat or give you a written letter acknowledging their consent. And you gotta show them what you're gonna do out there, aeration, septic, mound filtration, what you're gonna do, and they have to approve it. Well, Ron told me the county came back and said he has to have commercial grade private septic system.